What's going on, guys? We got week 17 of the NFL here at the Dirty-O-IDP. We're going to be talking some underdogs, give you some pick 'em, give you some of our favorite picks. Gary's going to cover the IDP. I'm going to cover the Dirty O. And we're going to talk about some DK Sportsbook lines as well to get you prepared for week 17. Gary, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How about you, Dave? I'm ready to win some money.
Yeah, let's win some money, win some fantasy championships. I hope everybody started Joe Flacco.
Yeah, right. Did you make that call?
I sat Joe Flacco with the Cooper Cup, not Cooper Cup, Mari Cooper news. I sat him, and I'm gonna regret it. It's in my super flex leagues, and yeah, not fun looking at those all those points on the bench. But Gary, you got one for us, Aaron Donald. Let's start off with him against the Giants.
Yeah, Aaron Donald. He's pretty easy to cover. All right, so we're just covering every general best bet in this episode, second editions for end of week. So we're going to go with Rams, Aaron Donald. If you don't know who this masterpiece of a defensive tackle is, he is probably, for the last couple of years been probably the top three best athlete in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball. And he's had a kind of a down year this year. They've been able to key off on him a little bit more, considering that the whole entire defense around him is a bunch of first and second starters, basically. So, but we're going to go with Rams, Aaron Donald with an over quarter of a sack at minus 110 at the Giants. All right, look, we pick on the Giants. I've said this last show. I'm going to mention again that the Giants have kind of eased up on allowing the production off the edge, but they have consistently been a top two the entire season, even right now, at least in my format, at allowing production on the inside. The defensive line is formidable enough. They're not going to have any problems at all taking advantage of this. And, an elite player like Aaron Donald's going to come up with a quarter of a sack.
Yeah, and so the next guy that I wanted to bring up is Jarrett Stidham. And I know that all the news is about Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. And the biggest piece of news that I saw today was that Courtland Sutton is out. And so Jarrett Stidham, last year he played pretty well in some games at the end of the season for the Las Vegas Raiders. This is the first time we're going to see him in this Sean Payton offense. But 1.5 touchdowns, I'm going to take the under at negative 238. Denver's been a tougher defense the second half of the season. And without Courtland Sutton, that's going to be the main target for that Denver offense in the red zone. I'm gonna take the chances here and go with the under for Jarrett Stidham.
We all know how I roll, so I actually kind of messed up, didn't throw in the little tidbit when Tyrod Taylor started that little 4-game stretch for the Giants. Their sack situation wasn't any better than what it was before or after the veto, whatever the whole situation. So I think he had like 7 sacks and it was like 9 sacks in 4 games, something like that.
Yep.
So anyways, we'll just go ahead and roll on here, though, and talk about Saints. Carl Granderson, man, I'm a huge fan. Love this kid. Was on him last year. He got paid this year. He's was marked elite for most of this season. He's still borderline elite, if not in with his last few games. I haven't even checked because he's been on a tear. Sack in the last 3 contests. Of course, I kind of called that part too just a few weeks ago. If you play the game of fantasy football, I told you that this guy was going to light it up just based off the matchup. So I have no problem in this matchup to go with solos. You might be surprised that I'm not going with sacks, but I'm going to tell you what. Buccaneers actually were pretty low on the totem pole at the prior of the season in ranking and allowing production off the edge. But as it's progressed, they've moved up the totem pole a little bit. So it's gotten into this range where Granderson really, really can match up well with a strong matchup. A solid matchup, he can overproduce a few times like he did at the beginning of the year. But then we've seen him hit a wall. He kind of fell off. Then he got back into it this last few weeks. But the one thing he's been consistent about, when the production's not actually there for sacks, he's still a very productive tackle machine. He's had 29 tackles in the last 5 games, including a similar matchup on paper last week with the Rams with 8 combined tackles. I'm good to go with Saints Carl Granderson over 2.5 solos plus 100 at the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I like that one as well. And I remember you having Carl Granderson as your breakout player this year, and I like that call. So I'm going to go with Jaren Hall, sticking with my pattern of picking on quarterbacks. Jarrett Stidham, I talked about him earlier. Now we got Jaren Hall, and I'm going to go 0.5 interceptions versus Green Bay, and I'm taking the over with negative 115 odds. Green Bay have 15 interceptions on the year already, and we've seen where Minnesota is not afraid to let their quarterbacks air it out. Whether it's Nick Mullins, whether it's Josh Dobbs, and we've seen them turn over the ball like crazy the last 2 months of football. So give me the 0.5 interceptions. I could be over a lot of the different production here for Hall. We're going to talk about his over and under on combined yards here in a little bit, but let's go to George Karlaftis.
Yeah, man, he's had a hell of a season this year. Second season in the league. He's getting to play next to Chris Jones. It's actually been a pretty healthy defensive line across the front. Dana is pretty tough up there too. It's just a good rotation up there with above par players across the board, including Karlaftis. So I have no problems going with him this week when he's got consistency in the matchups just as much as anybody out there. He just hasn't been able to, really floor it in his breakout season. But I have no problem going with the over 1/4 of a sack at plus 105 versus the Bengals. These guys are going to be on some kind of revenge game. They losing Raiders last week, right? So talking about the Chiefs. So I got a feeling we're going to see Karlaftis in the backfield. Pretty easy win for the last 5 weeks with Jake Browning in the situation. He's getting his butt sacked off just like, before. And they're actually in the top 5 now and allowing production off the edge. So George Karlaftis for 1/4 of a sack, no problem.
All right, and I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud is back this week, and so is Nico Collins. And this is my 3rd quarterback. I think I'm done with quarterbacks for a little while. And Tennessee is a tough matchup. If you look at what they've allowed on the season as far as passing yards, then you might want to take the under in this one. But I'm going to look at C.J. Stroud and what he's done. And C.J. Stroud, 470 yards, 356, 336, 304, 274. That's his last 5 games. He's not even close to this 238 number. I'm going to take them. They're at home, which also, so you're not going to have weather factoring in and things like that. No Tank Dell isn't there. Noah Brown's been great when he fills in. Dalton Schultz, he's got a ton of weapons. This offensive line's been much better than we thought it was going to be. And C.J. Stroud's just been hot. So I know he's coming off the concussion, but I really like C.J. Stroud. And I took a little peek over at Sleeper and what their users thought. 99% of people are putting money for this to go over as far as the prop for 238.5. And then going back to the Jaren Hall, 95% are saying that it's going to be over the 0.5 interceptions.
Well, with that, I'll roll with the Falcons. Kaden Ellis, inside linebacker at the Bears. All right, it's over. I'm going to take the over on 4.5 solos at a plus 114. In the last 9 games, only had 2 that wasn't over 4 solos. And then the Bears themselves are sitting in top 3 for the last 5 weeks in production to the inside linebacker. I have no trouble taking Kaden Ellis. This is almost like candy to me, being that they're playing at the Bears up in Chicago. So at plus 114.
Yeah, I like that one as well. He was someone that, they were familiar with. Their GM was familiar. He had a breakout year last year. They scooped him up, and he's just playing great. And that Atlanta defense is very interesting. So I'm going to go with Nico Collins and stack him with my CJ Stroud pick. And Nico Collins, he had a touchdown last week, but you look at what he's done recently. He's Stroud's favorite target. 11 targets, 7 receptions, 65 yards, no touchdown. 9 targets, 7 receptions, 104 yards, and a touchdown. 12 targets, 9 receptions, 191 yards, and 1 touchdown. I wanted to go with the touchdowns, but Tennessee is pretty stingy. They're allowing only 1 receiving touchdown average on the year. So I'm going to stick to receiving yards. I think it's only going to take 3 or 4 catches for him to be able to accomplish this. It's going to be an easy one. Give me Nico Collins over 59.5 receiving yards. And for those that can't see that, it's not on the screen, but negative 115 odds.
Oh, cool. All right. Giants, Jasson Pinnock, safety. This guy, since the bye week, he has an average. He's averaged almost 6 solos with no less than 4 in any contest. So that's the last 4 weeks. God damn it, man. I wrote this like shit. He's a Giants. Jasson Pinnock is productive by volume. He's a on par type player, another consistent guy when it's versus the matchups. He's got a little bit of playmaking ability, and since their Week 13 bye, he's actually been averaging almost 6 solos per game. The Rams in the last 5 weeks have crept up into the top 8 in allowing production to his position, the safety position. Also, nothing is not easy. Oh, yeah, it's really hard to get after the Rams off the edge all the time. They've actually been ranked pretty low. So what that tells me, they've even stifled some studs over the year. But what I suspect is going to happen here with no pass rush or not much of a pass rush, that's going to work into his favor. Now, I like Thibodeau. I respect Thibodeau, but Thibodeau can't overachieve sometimes, and it really depends on that matchup. It's a little tougher on paper than some might think if you go look at the production that's allowed. So in turn, I think this allows plenty of time to get the ball down the field. And from what I understand, the Rams have been on a roll lately.
Yeah, the Rams have been playing really good. They're one of the most improved teams. They're a playoff team this year, and they throw the ball a ton, which means that, they're going to be running all over the field trying to get, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Tyler Higbee on the ground. Kyron Williams gets his share of work. And, as a Giants fan, I know Jasson Pinnock is one of our leaders of the defense. He's all over the place, and sometimes he does play down in the box, which would, be the reason for the additional tackles recently.
Wasn't he like an undrafted free agent from the Jets? And he actually sent like second rounder from last year to the bench. Bethia or something.
Yeah, the Giants were able to let Julian Love go over to Seattle, and then they have 4th rounder Dane Belton, who's behind him. So it's Xavier McKinney and Pinnock. McKinney's more of a coverage safety. Pinnock is the enforcer, and so. Wink Martindale, he's got a lot of different schemes and things like that. But Pinnock I think he's playing on 99 or 100% of the snaps. He's out there a lot, and he's a versatile player.
He's on a lot of my rosters, brother. I got him cheap last year.
Yeah, he's a great player. So let's talk about some underdog. Let's build a parlay.
Hell yeah. Whenever you're ready, sir.
All right, so we're going to build you guys a 10X, make you some money. If you spend $10, plug all these in, you're going to get $100, or you can just grab a couple of them and build your own. The first one I'm going to talk about is Jordan Love higher, going after that Monday night game. 1.5 passing touchdowns. We've seen Minnesota in some shootouts recently, and Jordan Love has been playing great. He might actually get Christian Watson back this week, which would really, really help the odds in this situation. But regardless, you have Aaron Jones out of the backfield. You got Tucker Kraft. You have Dontavian Wicks, who's come on, and then Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. I love Jordan Love this year, and I think this is a great matchup for him to be able to get higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns.
So I'll roll with Jaguars, Josh Allen, defensive end. I'll go with a higher half a sack versus the Panthers. My number one thing right here is pretty cut and dry. Josh Allen's a well above par player. He's had a really good season for his third or fourth year. I don't know if you can say it's an extreme breakout, but he's held his own and he stayed healthy. So Panthers for the entire season have allowed top 10 production off the edge and sacks and such. And he, for the last 3 weeks or last 5 weeks, they've been top 3. So it's kind of a no-brainer for me if he only needs a half a sack.
Yeah, and for me, I'm picking on Jaren Hall again. They got him down for 20.5 rushing, but then the differential between the passing and the rushing is over 30 yards. So, my only fear here is Justin Jefferson takes a couple of short passes and takes him to the house. But Jordan Addison's banged up. Justin Jefferson's banged up. TJ Hawkinson is not going to be playing. And Jaren Hall is in at quarterback with a banged up offensive line. And so I'm going to take the lower on this one. You got the 246.5 passing and rushing yards. I don't see that happening against a very tough Green Bay defense that should be all over Jaren Hall in his second career start.
And that lands me back with Saints Carl Granderson. Man, I just really confident in this. This guy might not get a sack, but he's going to get plenty of production because he's just been going with it. So if I was willing to go 2.5 solos earlier, DraftKings had him at 1.5 with the assist, but then in their total assisted tackles, they were stuck at 5. So I'm going to bite here and definitely think that Carl Granderson can get higher than 4 total tackles at the Buccaneers.
Well, I think we take those 4 and we take it to the bank. All right, yeah, so we're going to start off with Rams Aaron Donald over 0.25 sacks against the New York Giants, negative 110 odds. Then you have Jarrett Stidham under 1.5 touchdowns, negative 238 on the odds. Carl Granderson over 2.5 solos, plus 100 odds at the Buccaneers. Jaren Hall over 0.5 interceptions, negative 115 odds against Green Bay. Chiefs George Karlaftis over 0.25 sacks, plus 105 odds versus the Bengals. CJ Stroud over 238.5 passing yards, negative 115 odds versus Tennessee. Falcons Kaden Ellis over 4.5 solo, plus 114 at the Bears. Nico Collins over 59.5 receiving versus Tennessee. Jason Pinnock over 3.5 solo, plus 130 odds versus the Rams. Jahmyr Gibbs over 49.5 rushing. We might have skipped over Gibbs. So just to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, 49.5 rushing. The reason we like the over on that one, we've seen the Dallas Cowboys absolutely give it up on the ground recently. They're 4th most in rushing yards allowed in the last 3 weeks. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs, he's got 80, 100, and 66 in his last 3 weeks. You look at what Sleeper's saying, they like the 49.5 rushing line a lot. 99% of Sleeper users are taking the over. Here's your underdog parlay, your 10x, starting out with Jordan Love, higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Jaren Hall, lower than 246.5 passing and rushing. You have Jaguars, Josh Allen, higher than 0.5 sacks versus the Panthers. And Saints, Carl Granderson, higher than 4 total tackles at the Buccaneers. I think that's going to be a winner.
Catchy.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody checking in. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. Let us know what you think about the show. And don't forget to show up next week so we can help you win some more money.
Thank you for watching this IDP Guys video. If you like this content and you want more fantasy football content, click here. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos to help you master your IDP league, click here to subscribe.